They called him loser, worthless, and waste of space every day for 4 years. They told Marcus Thompson he would never amount to anything, that he was destined to fail, that he should just accept being invisible. What his high school tormentors didn't know was that their cruelty would become his fuel, their predictions would become his motivation, and their voices would drive him to build a multi-million-dollar empire. But when Ellen brought them face to face after 10 years, what Marcus did next would prove that the greatest revenge isn't getting even. It's becoming so successful that you can afford to forgive. The studio was charged with energy as Ellen finished her opening dance to Stronger by Kelly Clarkson, the song choice seeming almost intentional given what was about to unfold. The audience was still energized from Ellen's monologue about second chances and personal transformation, and the warm California afternoon light streaming through the windows promised that this would be one of those episodes that redefined what success really means. Marcus Thompson sat in the green room adjusting his perfectly tailored navy suit, a far cry from the ill-fitting hand-me-downs he had worn throughout high school. At 25, he had the kind of quiet confidence that came from proving everyone wrong, sharp green eyes that held both intelligence and hard-earned wisdom, dark hair styled in a way that spoke to success without arrogance, and the composed demeanor of someone who had learned to control his environment rather than be controlled by it. Marcus had never imagined he would be sitting backstage at the Ellen DeGeneres show. 6 weeks earlier, a producer had contacted Thompson Tech Solutions after seeing an article about the company's rapid growth and young CEO. What had started as a potential business feature had evolved into something much more personal when Marcus had quietly mentioned his unconventional journey from high school outcast to tech entrepreneur. What Marcus didn't know was that his story had sparked something in the show's research team. They had reached out to his former high school, contacted old classmates, and discovered a trail of transformation so remarkable that it challenged everything people believed about bullying, success, and the power of turning pain into purpose. "Marcus Thompson, you're ready in 5 minutes," a production assistant announced. Marcus took a deep breath, straightened his tie, a nervous habit he'd developed during his first business presentations, and followed the assistant toward the stage. As he walked through the corridors lined with photos of Ellen's most inspiring guests, he thought about the 17-year-old boy who had fantasized about this moment, imagining all the people who had dismissed him finally seeing who he had become. Ellen's introduction was warm and intriguing. "My next guest is someone who proves that high school doesn't define your destiny. At 25, he's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company, but his journey to success started in a place that might surprise you. Please welcome Marcus Thompson." The audience applauded as Marcus walked onto the stage, his confidence evident but not arrogant. Ellen greeted him with her signature hug and immediately sensed the interesting combination of success and humility radiating from this young man. "Marcus, thank you for being here," Ellen said as they settled onto the familiar white couch. 25 years old and already running a major tech company, that's impressive. Tell me about Thompson Tech Solutions. Marcus's face lit up as he began talking about his passion. "We develop software solutions for small businesses, basically helping family-owned companies compete with larger corporations by giving them access to the same technology tools. We have about 200 employees now and work with over 10,000 small businesses across the country." Ellen leaned forward with interest. "That's incredible. What inspired you to focus specifically on helping small businesses?" Marcus paused thoughtfully. "I've always been drawn to underdogs, I guess. People or businesses that others might dismiss or underestimate. I believe everyone deserves a chance to succeed, regardless of their size or resources." Ellen could hear something deeper in Marcus's words. "It sounds like there's a personal story behind that philosophy." Marcus smiled, but there was something vulnerable in his expression. "There is?" I wasn't always the confident person you see today. High school was challenging for me. The studio had grown noticeably quieter as the audience sensed Marcus was about to share something significant. "Can you tell me more about that?" Ellen asked gently. Marcus looked down at his hands, then back up at Ellen with the kind of honesty that only comes from someone who has processed their pain and turned it into purpose. "I was bullied pretty severely throughout high school. I was the classic target, small for my age, interested in computers when that wasn't cool yet, kind of awkward socially. Some kids made it their mission to remind me daily that I was worthless." Ellen's expression grew compassionate. "That must have been incredibly difficult. How did you cope?" "I escaped into technology," Marcus said simply. "While other kids were at parties or sports events, I was in my room learning programming languages, building websites, teaching myself everything I could about computers. It was the one place where I felt competent and in control." Ellen was amazed by Marcus's resilience. "Did you ever imagine that what felt like hiding would actually become your superpower?" Marcus laughed, a sound that carried both irony and gratitude. "Never? I thought I was just surviving. I had no idea I was actually preparing for my future." Ellen leaned forward with curiosity. "Marcus, what did those bullies say to you? What were their predictions about your future?" Marcus's expression grew more serious. "The usual things bullies say, but also some very specific predictions. They told me I'd never amount to anything, that I'd probably end up living in my parents' basement forever, that I was too weird to ever be successful in the real world." "And how do you feel about those predictions now?" Ellen asked. Marcus smiled with quiet confidence. "I think they underestimated the power of motivation. Every time someone told me I couldn't do something, it just made me more determined to prove them wrong." Ellen exchanged a meaningful look with her producers in the booth. What happened next would either be the most satisfying moment of vindication or would require the most delicate handling of old wounds. "Marcus," Ellen said carefully, "what if I told you that some of those people from high school wanted to see you again?" Marcus's confident facade flickered slightly. "What do you mean?" "What if I told you that we reached out to your former classmates and several of them are here today?" Marcus's face went pale. "They're here? Now?" Ellen stood up and looked toward the stage entrance. "Would you like to meet some old friends?" 3 people walked onto the stage, 2 men and 1 woman, all in their mid-20s. Marcus recognized them immediately. Jake Williams, who had been the quarterback and ringleader of his torment. Ashley Martinez, who had been part of the popular crowd that had made him feel invisible. And, surprisingly, David Chen, who hadn't been a bully, but had been a bystander who never intervened. Marcus stood up slowly, his business confidence temporarily replaced by the nervous energy of a teenager facing his past. "Marcus," Jake said, his voice uncertain. "Wow, you look different." "Hi, Jake, Ashley, David," Marcus said, his voice steady despite his obvious discomfort. Ellen watched the dynamics carefully, ready to intervene if needed. "Jake, Ashley, David, thank you for being here. I want to start by asking, did any of you know about Marcus's success?" All 3 shook their heads. Ashley spoke first. "We had no idea. The last time I saw Marcus was graduation, and honestly, I didn't think about him much after that." Ellen turned to Jake. "Jake, you were mentioned specifically as someone who made high school difficult for Marcus. How do you feel seeing him now?" Jake's face flushed with embarrassment. "I feel terrible, honestly. Looking back, I was dealing with my own insecurities by putting Marcus down. I was a kid, but that's not an excuse." Marcus was listening intently, his expression unreadable. Ellen addressed Ashley next. "Ashley, what's your reaction to learning about Marcus's success?" "I'm shocked," Ashley admitted, "but also impressed. And also ashamed. I was never directly mean to Marcus, but I definitely ignored him, treated him like he didn't exist. That's its own kind of cruelty. David stepped forward. Marcus, I owe you an apology too. I watched what was happening and never said anything. I was too worried about my own social status to stand up for what was right. Ellen turned to Marcus. Marcus, how does it feel to hear these apologies? Marcus took a deep breath, and when he spoke, his voice carried the wisdom of someone who had transformed pain into purpose. It feels healing, actually. For years, I carried anger about high school, but building my company taught me that holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. Jake looked directly at Marcus. Marcus, I need you to know that the things I said to you, the way I treated you, it was wrong. You didn't deserve that. No one deserves that. Marcus met Jake's eyes. I forgive you, Jake. All of you? What you did hurt at the time, but it also shaped me into someone who fights for underdogs, who understands what it feels like to be underestimated. Ellen was openly crying now. Marcus, that's incredible grace. But I have to ask, was there ever a part of you that wanted revenge? That wanted to show them up? Marcus smiled, and for the first time since his classmates had arrived, he looked completely relaxed. Ellen, I got my revenge. It's called success. But revenge that comes from achievement feels different than revenge that comes from anger. I didn't succeed despite what they did to me. I succeeded because of it. Ellen wasn't finished with her surprises. Marcus, I have something to show everyone. The large screen behind them lit up with a presentation showing Thompson Tech Solutions growth. Employee testimonials, small business owners whose companies had been transformed by Marcus's software, and impressive financial metrics. Marcus, Ellen announced, your company was just valued at $50 million. You employ 200 people, many of whom say you're the best boss they've ever had because you create an environment where everyone feels valued. Marcus looked surprised. How did you get that information? We talked to your employees, Ellen said with a grin. They told us you have a zero-tolerance policy for workplace bullying and that you've created mentorship programs for young developers who remind you of yourself. Ashley was staring at the screen in amazement. Marcus, you're a millionaire? I'm comfortable, Marcus said modestly. Jake stepped forward. Marcus, I don't even know what to say. You've accomplished more than any of us ever dreamed of. Marcus looked at his former classmates with genuine warmth. You know what's interesting? I still have that 17-year-old inside me sometimes, still wanting your approval. But I've learned that the only approval that matters is your own. Ellen had one more surprise. Marcus, there's something else. Jake, Ashley, and David have all been struggling professionally. Jake's been unemployed for 6 months, Ashley's been looking for a career change, and David's been trying to start his own business, but needs guidance. Marcus looked at his former classmates with interest rather than judgment. Marcus, Ellen continued, what would you say if I told you they were all hoping you might consider giving them advice, or maybe even job opportunities? The studio held its breath, waiting to see how Marcus would respond to this unexpected turn. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, then smiled. Actually, Ellen, I've been thinking about expanding Thompson Tech's mentorship program. We could use people who understand what it's like to make mistakes and want to do better. Jake's mouth fell open. Are you offering us jobs? I'm offering you opportunities, Marcus clarified, just like someone once offered me an opportunity when I was down. But you'd have to earn your positions, just like everyone else. Ashley started crying. Marcus, after the way we treated you, you'd still help us? Ashley, holding grudges takes energy. I'd rather spend building something positive. Besides, some of my best employees are people who've had to overcome their past mistakes. Ellen was beaming. Marcus, that's incredible. You're literally turning your painful past into opportunities for the people who caused that pain. Marcus shrugged. Forgiveness isn't about them, Ellen. It's about me. I refuse to let high school bullies have any power over my adult life, even positive power. I'm successful because I choose to be, not because I'm trying to prove anything to anyone. David stepped forward. Marcus, if you're serious about this opportunity, I want you to know that I've spent 10 years regretting not standing up for you. I'd worked twice as hard to make up for that. Marcus extended his hand to David. Then let's start over. Hi, I'm Marcus Thompson, CEO of Thompson Tech Solutions. David shook his hand firmly. Hi, I'm David Chen, and I'd be honored to work for someone I should have defended a long time ago. Ellen watched as Marcus shook hands with Jake and Ashley as well, officially turning his former tormentors into potential colleagues. This is beautiful, Ellen said. Marcus, you've just demonstrated something incredible. That success isn't about beating the people who hurt you. It's about becoming so secure in yourself that you can help them instead. 6 months later, Ellen visited Thompson Tech Solutions and found Jake working diligently in the customer service department, Ashley excelling in the marketing team, and David successfully launching his startup with Marcus as his mentor. The former bullies had become some of Marcus's most loyal and hard-working employees. Any regrets about hiring them? Ellen asked as she toured the offices. Marcus smiled, watching Jake patiently help a frustrated customer. None. They've brought something valuable to our company culture. They understand what it's like to be wrong, to need second chances, to have to prove yourself. That makes them incredibly dedicated employees. And how do they treat you now? Like a boss they respect, not like the kid they used to pick on, Marcus replied, which is exactly how it should be. The transformation was evident in all 4 former classmates. Marcus had become not just successful, but wise. Jake, Ashley, and David had become not just employees, but advocates for the anti-bullying initiatives that Thompson Tech now funded in local schools. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving your bullies wrong. It's becoming so successful that you can afford to prove them capable of being right about something new, that people can change, that second chances matter, and that the kid they once underestimated had grown into someone big enough to give them the opportunities they needed to become better versions of themselves.